What up, Grizz Nation, and welcome back to another post-game show. I am your host, Daniel Greer, and we are Grizz 901. A little bit of a fun show that I expect to have tonight. The Grizzlies win 105-104 in a good old-fashioned slobber knocker is what I'm going to call this one. But listen, it's a Friday night. It should be a fun time, but I have to give a little bit of behind the scenes. I didn't do a Grizz Trivia. You know why? I was too invested in the game, and my wife's been out celebrating her friend's birthday all night. So it was me and the girls, and we watched the entire game. We had McDonald's. It was a fun night. So listen, you can be mad at me all you want, but there is no Grizz Trivia tonight. But there will be a little bit of a look ahead because Ryan is actually here with me. But tonight, as we always do, we're going to break down the show from top to the bottom. And we're going to skip the Grizz Trivia segment. We're going to go right into the look ahead as we look ahead to the next game, which is Sunday. So make sure you stay tuned. It's going to be the third game in 4 days, which could be something that plays into the look ahead a little bit that Ryan has. And then if you're on Twitter, join us over at YouTube. All my friends are here. Everybody's friends are here. Everybody's hanging out. So join us over at YouTube. But if you like to hang over at Twitter, that's fine. Go ahead and hit the like and share for us. But go over to Bluff City Media YouTube. You can find us there. We'll be going live right now. But that's all we have. Let's go ahead and start the show. What up, man? What up?
That was misery. Just complete misery. Look, I think they need, after Elon's done with Trump and all that stuff, he needs to come in and help Silver with the refs.
Oh, my God.
Start cutting some of these people out. Because tonight, just in general, it wasn't one-sided. I can think of half a dozen calls where they just flat out missed. And it's like, what are you even looking at? It was horrible.
Yeah.
Like that 3 should never ref again, ever again. That was awful.
No doubt. Listen, one, thank you all for hanging out with us, and your comments coming through left and right is funny to me because I see some of this stuff and I can't even keep up what in the world you're talking about. The last comment I'm seeing right now is Sloppy Joe's, and I feel like I'm missing out on what's going on in the chat. So I'm kind of having FOMO over here. But the officiating tonight, all right, earmuffs,
so bad.
kids. It was shit. Like it was so bad. Like I just don't understand. And I've not been a ref guy on this show. That I leave that to Nate because I know that he's going to kind of come with that, and that's what he looks for. When I play, I'm very much on consistency. I'm very much on, if you're gonna give me that, I better get that right, and so that's cool. But like I'm watching these games and I'm seeing so much inconsistency, and a lot of it's towards Ja. Like he's getting nothing that SGA gets. And I don't understand it. Can you help me understand why SGA, you can breathe on him, you get a foul? Ja, everybody goes straight up on Ja. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't. The only thing I could maybe reasonably explain is that Shay's a few inches taller, maybe, and his limbs are longer. So maybe it looks like he's getting more than he is. But like Jaren picking up his 4th, he didn't foul him. Edie did. And then the very next play, he picks up the 5th, which takes him out for the whole 3rd and most of the 4th.
Right.
But it was like, I'm fine with physical basketball. Like in general, it's an interesting game because I like the physicality of it.
Yeah.
But when you take a pace of play, because the Magic and Grizz were wanting to run, but nobody could because either missed calls, blown hand check calls, or terrible fouls. Like the poor Orlando Magic assistant coach got a tech for waving at the Magic to rotate.
I agree
guy
with
shooting
that.
a 3. Like,
I agree with that.
what are we doing? That
I
is not a
agree.
technical foul.
Well, the issue
He
is
was not doing that.
I agree. But because he stepped towards him, like on his catch, like Luke was catching the ball, and when he was catching the ball, he was animated, right? He was not doing what they gave him a technical for, but
Yeah.
because he stepped towards Luke, and he realized it when he stepped towards Luke, because he was given that come, and then he like stepped towards Luke. It was like, oh, he's got the ball. Let me freeze. Like, hey, I'm here, but like, please don't like call anything on me. Like, he was like frozen, and then got the call. I was like, I get it. But it's because he stepped towards him, I think.
Which is fine. You can explain it that way if you want to, but nobody in their right mind, if you're a referee in the NBA Basketball Association, think that a grown man is going to jump out there on the court and swing. Like, what are we doing? It was all over the place. It was terrible. And I thought it affected the Grizzlies more than the Magic, right? Like, it clearly affected Ja.
Oh, 100%.
Where he wasn't getting call after call after call, and he's hunting for it and he's not getting it.
Yeah.
When we made that big run in towards the end of the third quarter was they tell me it was a 12-minute quarter, but how do you have a 20-point swings in 12 minutes? How is that possible?
I don't know.
But it was just like he went out because he was forcing, and then all of a sudden the ball movement and the cutting came back, and that's how they started their run. And then Gigi had his 3 minutes in the sun, right, where he just swishes threes in a row, and Bane has one in between there, and that's how they complete that run. But then Josh finally starts to get things going in the fourth. So, I mean, I don't. It was just an odd game. Like, entertaining from physicality standpoint, because I think that's what a lot of the playoffs are going to be, right? Like, it's going to be physical. But hopefully, please God, when we get to the playoffs, can we get real refs that know what they're doing and can tell the difference between someone shoving with a hand check and just using their arm bar to keep somebody's body off them?
No doubt.
Because this crew had no idea the difference.
Yeah, the refs sucked completely, backwards and forwards. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. But in the end, the Grizzlies do win, 105 to 104. So we'll look and we'll move past that completely. But I want to get to a comment here, and I'm looking at one guy, Wayno Aldama, that I'm looking at, and I'm looking at you right between the eyes here, Wayno. What a surprise. Santi wet the bed tonight. Do not pay this man. Trade this man. And I'm going to end it, and I'm going to add a little bit. Hashtag Grizzleverse. This is the most Grizzleverse. This is a 10 out of 10 Grizzleverse because Wayno.
10 out of 10. Okay.
He's a plus 22 on the night. And I'm not saying plus minus matters, but he had 9 points. He led the team in rebounding, or tied for the lead in rebounding, off of the bench. He had 31 minutes. He stepped up for a guy who couldn't help but foul, and another guy who couldn't help but put his hand in the cookie jar any chance he was able to, in Jaren Jackson Jr. Santi was actually a real big reason why the Grizzlies won tonight. So, Wayno Aldama, you get a hashtag 10 out of 10 Grizzleverse, because that is a BS answer. Or question.
I'm sorry, but the player of the game for me was Brandon Clark. I mean,
he was.
Santi had the plus minus stat monster, but Brandon Clark was really the biggest. Like, he was the only solid guy tonight. Like, Jaren was a complete no-show besides free throws. Ja was terrible for most of the game and just not in it at all. And that's a good point by Lauren. Like, Santi is so up and down, but he was there at the end and played okay defense on Paulo, right? But Santi's problem that I've had with him is he always just seems to be a step too slow, right? Like, his reaction time, like, it's reactive, not proactive, right? Mm-hmm. And so, like, he gets the ball. If he's not shooting it, he's looking, and like, his pass seems to take like an extra half second that it shouldn't, to kind of keep things moving. But I mean, who else were you going to put in there to be tough? I mean, that was a big boy, tough man's game. right?
Yeah.
And they tried Scotty in the second half. He had a steal and
Had a good stretch
did
for about 6
okay.
minutes.
Like he was fine. He was a little change of pace from what they were doing. But yeah, Santi is up and down to me, which I think Lauren describes that very well. Like you just kind of don't know what you're getting from him, which is something that I'm worried about him in the playoffs. But tonight he closed with us and he played good enough defense for us to close.
Yeah, as Wayno's saying is, my defense of him all season is the only consistency for Santi. I love going head-to-head with Wayno anytime I get a chance. One, I think Santi's a good player, and I think deep down inside,
Fine. Yeah,
you could probably get that out of Wayno, but he did miss both free throws at
he
the
did.
end, because that is really what mattered. And J-Ro G, listen, I saw him pee down his leg, but I'm trying to look past it, okay? I'm looking for the better in people.
He
I
didn't
see that
pee
he
down
did
his
that.
leg as bad as the Magic did in that final 8 seconds. I
Yeah.
mean, that was like they were all stopped to call a timeout, and they looked over at Mosley, and he's just standing there with his arms down. And Powell's like,
But
oh
hold
God.
on. I heard Jamal Mosley was going to coach circles around our coach Taylor Jenkins in the second half. That's all I heard at the halftime of the Grizzleverse Spaces is how he was going to, tell all these guys what to do, and they were going to go right at the Grizzlies, which it did work for a little bit, but
Yeah.
maybe, just maybe, he was out coached tonight. I don't know. We'll see. But
No, that was just one of those weird things at the end. Like, I hate when coaches call those timeouts. I would have done the same thing as Jamal, but the problem was there wasn't a communication with the players to know to go. Like there was a either someone miscommunicated or someone didn't relay the message. There was just something off about that, which thank God worked into the Grizzlies' favor. But yeah, that looks bad at the end because the Magic, for most of the game, felt like in control. But the Grizzlies hung tough, and that's what they tried to do against the Pacers, right? They just couldn't they dug themselves too much of a hole and are just, unfortunately, better offensive team than what the Magic are. So the Magic can have real lulls in their offense. And so it kind of let the Grizzlies back in it, and they closed. And that's what we want to see, right? Like, we haven't seen them play a lot of close games. And this was an ugly playoff-type physical close game, and they closed on it. Doesn't matter if it was because Santi peed down his leg, missed free throws, or the miscommunication between coaching staff to players and the Magic. They still closed it. And so that is, at least it's a win.
Yeah. Well, that's what we got to look forward to is the Grizzlies win 105-104. Let's look through some of these players real quick, and I want to get your opinion on them before we move on. I don't want to have a completely crazy long night like last night. Last night was an hour and 15. I think it was because our first game back, Drew's, he doesn't get many times on the show. And so maybe that was we just kept going, and it felt like honestly it felt like it flew by, and so we're trying to somewhat ease this night. I don't want to go crazy tonight, but looking at the stats, Jaren shot 11 free throws tonight. Is that shocking?
Yeah, for him. I mean, it's got to be one of his higher numbers of the year, right?
Yeah. So Paolo shot 13. And Jaren shot 11. Nobody else was over 6. Bain shot 5 on the other team. Franz Wagner shot 6 free throws. Like it was those two guys who were in foul trouble on both ends. They were the ones on the other side, I guess, benefiting from it in different sides, and they shot the most free throws. But Jaren overall had not a great game. When he was able to play within the game, I think he played fine. He was still a minus 11, which, I don't look into that too much, but 16 points overall. He had just 4 rebounds and assists. That's kind of where I'm an issue with is the rebounds, but he still had a steal and a block, but no turnovers. So any thoughts on Jaren just overall?
Yeah, I thought he was just bad tonight, right? Like you can't take him off the court if he's bad, right? Like he needs to be out there. And I wouldn't say that it was like an all-star weekend hangover because he played 1 game to 40 and that was it, right? So it's not like he exerted a lot of energy, but he also didn't get that break that everyone else did. And he's played pretty much all season. So I mean, I think you can try to explain it away as much as you can. I think it was just an off night, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a 3-game road trip, right? Like I think the Cavs
Yeah.
is the last, like you said, 3 and 4 games and all on the road coming off an All-Star break. I mean, I don't care who the teams you're playing are. Like that's not an easy thing to do to just rev up and go on a 3-game road trip in 4
Right.
nights,
Yeah.
especially against teams that are going to be in the playoffs in the East. Now, I know the quality is not as good, but like the Pacers have been playing better. The Magic are a very solid defensive team and gave the Grizzlies absolute fits. And then on Saturday, I mean, you're talking about the number 1 overall record team in the NBA. So to steal one of these, I think is good enough. Like you
Okay.
never want to go 0-3, but if you come out of this 1-2, I think you can live with it. I really
Yeah.
do. And if you happen to go 2-1 against the best team in the NBA, then with how poorly they've looked so far in 2 games, you got to take it like all day long. You just kind of hope as they get out of this All-Star thing, it takes teams a little while after All-Star break to kind of get back in the rhythm. Hopefully there's more not playing catch up so much and more of a consistency throughout the game, right?
Yeah.
Instead of massive swings quarter to quarter.
Yeah. Well, if you look at their schedule, I know it seems daunting, but like once you
It's
get
not an
past
easy schedule. I mean, it's
no,
not.
no, but like the main thing was the back to back and then the third game in 4 days, right? So that Cavs game, which you're playing Sunday, it's an ESPN game. It is still a night. It's a Sunday night game, so you're getting the full roughly 48 hours, past your last one. It is still travel on the road, but after that, you do have the Suns at home on Tuesday, so you get a day off and you get a night. You get a night game against the Suns at home, right? But then like Friday night, so Tuesday to Friday, you get Wednesday and Thursday off. So they get a chance to kind of recuperate. So yes, it is 3 games in 4 days. And those 3 are on the road for the most, but then you get back home Tuesday, and then really it's just 2 games in that 1 week. So if you can weather the storm, and maybe the Cavs game Sunday is a loss. Let's just say it's a loss.
Right.
You have 2 games in a week. If you win one of the 2, I still think you're good. You possibly have a chance to win both of those games next week on a Tuesday and a Friday because we owe the Knicks in a sense. And so,
Right.
all in all, I don't think it's that crazy. But I consider that Cavs game a loss just because third game in 4 days, usually a loss.
Sorry. Yeah.
You're going against the Cavs who just dominated the Knicks tonight. It's gonna be a very tough one. But let's go through some of these comments real quick. And I have one I want to get to real quick from King Mix. He says hashtag ask Ryan. Sorry, 2 A's in there. But ask Ryan first. How you doing? And then
Good.
what's going
Yep.
on with Edie lately? Has he hit the rookie wall? So one, King Mix trying to be a friend. He wants to know how you're doing, but then ask about Edie.
King mates, I'm doing well. Edie, I don't know if he's hit a rookie wall. He is now facing what I think is playoff rotation prep. I think that the rotation you're going to see from here on out, whether Vince is in there or not, I think it's preparing to see what that lineup looks like. And to see little tweaks here and there. Do we need to keep starting Edie? Do we need to go with BC and then Edie off the bench? Do we need to go away from Edie entirely? I don't think they will because it is just a regular season game. Let's just start the first few minutes with Edie. And if we're rolling and we're going to blow this team out by 20, then great. If it's going to be a tougher situation like tonight where they're just going to pick on him mercilessly over and over and over, then we got to go to what our likely playoff rotation is. So I don't think it's necessarily the rookie wall because I think he's been playing fine, right? Like I don't think he has been bad per se for a rookie in the situation that he's in. I mean, he's a starting dinosaur player for a team that's second and third in the West, right? Like he kind of is what he is. I just think you're getting what the main rotation is going to be for the rest of the season and the ideal look for come playoff time.
Yeah. I think Edie is matchup based, and I think we're seeing that more and more. The fact that Edie is sometimes he's played off the court, sometimes he's not. Sometimes he can be a factor. That has to be understood.
Yeah.
Edie fans, if you're listening or watching this, you're gonna have to understand. Edie is matchup based. He is good when he's good, but he's bad when he's bad, and that's just going to be the truth. Like
Yeah.
he can easily be an athletic big on the other side. Which Wendell Carter, I love Wendell Carter, and he does all the dirty work. He doesn't really need the ball, and that's the type of a player and a big that I've always wanted for this Grizzlies team. A guy who doesn't need the ball, not scared to actually do the dirty work to get the rebounds, set screens, whatever, but also be mobile enough to be um, in there towards the end of the game. Steven Adams was all of that, except for the very end where you couldn't really have him in a lot of times because they would target him and they would try to play him off the court because they know how much of a factor he is on the court. And so if you can somehow get him played off the court by taking advantage of his defense and low mobility, that's really where it comes. But I love Wendell Carter. Wendell Carter, he took advantage of Edie and his size, and he kept spacing him out as much as he could. And then he'd just backdoor, grab a rebound. And honestly, I was disgusted with half of the game just because they looked like they were just standing around and trying to just stand there and get the rebound. And that's not to Edie. This is to everybody. Right. Instead of working and putting your body on somebody and then working from the body to the rebound, which is fundamental stuff. It's just stupid. But
yeah, I mean, if I can add to your Edie point about matchup based, right? Like we saw it at the very end of this game. They were hunting Cole Anthony in every switch, right? So if they couldn't hide Cole Anthony on anybody, like they tried to put him on Brandon Clark screening for Ja, they're switching, right? Not working through, and then everybody goes flat. Ja's attacking Cole. They couldn't put Cole on Ja because everybody go flat, and he just go at him then, right? If he's guarding Bane, Bane's going to come screen and roll,
right?
So Edie is just that kind of player, right? Like he is a situational. He's not going to be in there at the end because he's going to get picked on. It just is what it is. Just like Ja's going to get picked on. Like he's the vice versa Cole Anthony of us. Yeah. He's going to get picked on in pick and rolls. So it felt like a real playoff atmosphere tonight, and it was fun to watch the chess pieces. It was hard to focus on chess pieces because the three people in stripes were god awful, but the chess piece kind of stuff was playoff feeling to me.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, ours disagreeing with I guess both of us at this point.
Sure.
I don't think that was the one I was clicking on. Here we go. Art, sorry, you said another one, so I was looking at it. But Art disagrees. So he believes in Edie will be the mismatch, and instead of the other way around. So we're seeing it as okay. Let me fully explain myself. Edie can be the mismatch if the other big is smaller than him, but is not mobile. So if there's another big that isn't as big as Edie, which nobody really is, and he's not very mobile. Let's say Brook Lopez, for example. I don't think Brook Lopez is very mobile. When he does try to stretch you out, it's really the short corner, and he tries just to go out there and knock down some open shots, right? So he will space you out, but for the most part, he's not going to just beat you. But if you look at another guy like Derek Lively is going to take advantage of Edie because he's more athletic and can move around, a lot of pick and roll. And honestly, at that point, drop coverage, Edie is dead. And there could be lobs left and right on his head. So yes, Art, you do disagree, but I just wanted to explain myself. I think Edie can be a mismatch, but only in certain spots. For the most part, when we get down to the playoffs, stuff like that, I think we are at a mismatch depending on the actual matchup that we have. Do you see it this exact same way as I do?
Yeah, I do, because I mean, the only way I see to me that you can say he's a mismatch is if you plan on feeding him in the post, right? And he has just not really shown all season that he can do that. He's too slow with it, doesn't have great hands. Sometimes he gets deep positions, sometimes he doesn't. But a back to the basket post up like that is literally the worst shot in basketball. It just is.
Yeah.
Like, you can debate it if you want to. Oh, he's bigger than everybody and he's in the paint. Okay, if he's right by the basket, okay.
Yeah.
But most of the time, he's just not. Like, he's outside of the paint, and it's just a bad shot. It is. And he's not good enough of a passer yet, but he's a rookie, right? Like, it's high expectations to put a 7-foot guy who has been the focal point of a college offense for 3 years to all of a sudden switch now to play a role and contribute at a high level and be someone who's going to be helpful in a playoff series. If he does that, like, that's one of the few times in history, in NBA history, a rookie has ever done that. Like, that would be truly historical stuff. So it's just the reality of where he is right now. Like, I'm not against him. I think he's a good player, and he can help this team in certain instances, but we love Steven Adams. Steven Adams got played off the floor against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like,
so many times. And that's with Gobert and Cat.
Well, I think that year it was just Cat, right?
Was it?
They didn't have Rudy that year. I'm pretty sure. I think they got Rudy, I think the summer after, I believe.
Gotcha. Okay.
But
is that the Brandon Clark series?
That was the Brandon Clark and the Xavier Tillman series.
Okay, that's before Gobert.
They dusted off Tillman, and he kind of flipped the series for him. Right?
And he never played again.
That's probably what's going to happen to Edey, and it's not really a fault of his own, right?
Yeah,
like, it's just kind of where he's at.
No doubt.
So 3 or 4 years, will that be the same scenario? You hope not, right? Because what have you invested in? But I think that's reality on where he's going to be at.
Okay. All right, let's get through some of these real quick. One, King Reeks, is that you? I know I could smell you over here. King Meeks, not King Reeks, my bad. Yeah, like, I knew it. There's something smelling up the chat tonight, but I do want to get to DJ Lagway real quick, just because you've hit it in here twice, so I have to make sure I hit it at some point. So Ja Morant, 23 points tonight, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 1 of 7 from deep, 10 of 24. Just kind of overall, Ja looked like himself at times, and at this point, that's all I could ask for. But there's so many times that he did not look like he's in control of this offense, and I still think that. Like, I don't think he's taken the alpha stand and said, "Hey, this is my offense." Like, there's no other team, and prove me wrong. I would love to be proven wrong, but, like, there's no other team that's a true contender that you don't know the identity of the team. Like, if you look at OKC, it's Shai's team. Grizzlies, it could be Ja, it could be Jaren. Sometimes it's Bane. It really it's a flow, and I hate it. It's disgusting. Denver is Jokic. Maybe the Clippers. Maybe that's the only team that I don't know the exact flow of their team. But, then you have Steph, you have LeBron, maybe Luka, depending on how Luka wants to play. But if you look at these true contending teams, like, how they're going to be, and the flow of the game, who's going to take control. Ja takes control of the 8 minutes, as DJ's saying here, but in all honesty, it looks like Ja is still being a little beta-ish, but I still think he did step up towards the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the side of he just wants to make the playoffs, right? And
that's stupid.
And I get it. Like, it's not going to look great, and he's played, like, 33 games, 34 games. You're like, what are you taking off for? But I mean, if I were him, I'd have serious injury PTSD, right? Like, has he played more than 12 games in a row this season? I don't know. And he's missing layups that in past years he never misses. So, I mean, it just like everybody else who played sports at a high level, like, rhythm is very important to your game. And if you're playing 8 games here, you're off 3 weeks, you're playing another 10, then you got to have another maintenance and you're off another week or 2. Now you're back, you're on your 4th or 5th game. Like, that breaking rhythm is a huge thing. And I think that's kind of a little what Gigi's going through, right? Like he's on, I don't even think he's played 15 games yet for Gigi. And he's been wildly up and down, but it is a rhythm thing. That's why I kind of think this next 26 games, 25 games we have left?
We're close. 37 and 19. Do the math. That's 56.
So 26.
Sure. Yeah, there you go. I'll use my toes.
I do think it's going to be primarily focused on who's going to play in the playoffs and getting kind of that rhythm together heading into that. The only thing that can kill that is another nagging injury to someone else to break it up again, which we hope doesn't happen, right? Like I would have loved to seen Vince play tonight. Vince is perfect for this game. Because I agree with you. Like the Magic were physical, but the Grizzlies always seem to be standing around and looking at the ball, right?
Yeah.
Like they weren't too invested in going for it. And the Grizzlies, I mean, Marcus Smart never played, and our shining white prince, Jake LaRavia, got traded. But these were guys, when they played, would go attack the ball, right, on rebounds. Vince is kind of really the only guy we have that does that now, right? Like, I can't really think of anyone else who's going to attack the offensive boards like that. And offensive rebounding is very crucial for the Grizzlies. And I know it sounds like we didn't do it tonight when we had good offensive rebounding numbers, but I think that's why Santi kind of had an impact, right? I think 4 of his rebounds were offensive rebounds, and that's why BC was so crucial tonight. Like, I think they both had about 4 offensive rebounds.
So so the Grizzlies out rebounded them on the offensive board, 15-13.
Those little margin things are huge differences in this game.
So yeah, but BC and Santi 4 each.
But there was just too many times it felt like where the Grizzlies are just standing around looking at it and not attacking it, right? Like Cole Anthony got that offensive rebound at the end of the game, surrounded by 5 Grizzlies. And luckily enough, Bane bothered Franz enough where he blew the 3, right? And that what got Santi to the free throw line. So, I mean, in the playoffs, regular season is not going to matter. But in the playoffs, those little margin things add up. You know, just 100%. An extra possession here or there is the difference between winning and losing in the NBA at a high level.
Yeah, Austin saying here, if Santi is your best rebounder, you're doomed.
That's an
issue.
It's kind of where we're at, because besides Vince on this roster, who's going to attack the offensive glass?
Yeah, it is Vince, it's Santi, and it's BC. That's the main ones because they and honestly, a lot of it is the backside because they're usually off ball, and so it is the backside stuff. But Vince is usually everywhere, and so you don't want to. I don't want to discredit him too much, but I do think it is most of Santi and BC being off ball, being on the backside, and they come in for a kind of a ricochet rebound, which is great, right? The extra offensive possessions is really what wins you the games. And if you look at the stats, the Grizzlies had 4 extra shot attempts tonight, so 4 extra field goal attempts, and they won the offensive rebounding by 2. So those little things that really, in a 1 possession game, being more of a playoff feel where everything slows down a little bit, that's really what it looks like, and that's what it comes to be. And so, you kind of got to pick it apart. And I know a lot of people are picking apart the fact of the rotations again. Can you just like somehow just share? Is it the rotations that are weird? Or is it just like PTSD from the Grizzlies fans that they're like, hey, it's got to be rotations. I don't see my favorite player on the court.
No, I think a lot of it is youth, right? Like, it's just, I mean, we're the youngest team in the NBA again, besides the Thunder, I think.
Really?
I'm pretty sure we are after Marcus Smart trade. Like that we got rid of Kyle Anderson, D'Anthony Melton, got rid of, quote unquote vets, and went young. And then Ja had his year. So we panicked and got Marcus Smart to instill, discipline, I guess, within the organization. I don't know. And then he never plays and we get rid of him. Now we're young again. So this is the up and down. I've probably said it before on the show multiple times, but that is the fluctuation that you have with young players. Like Gigi, that 2-minute run he had. Like he's not good all game, but then he's on fire for 2 minutes and it flips the game. But if we had consistency, like that's how a lot of these is just consistency. And we just haven't seen that. And that's not to blame the young guys because our stars are not consistent. So it is, I don't know how to explain it because you've got when Ja and Jaren, which Jaren I think has been pretty locked in all season, although he looked disinterested tonight. But Ja has looked more disinterested than anybody for more stretches of the season. Pair that in with young guys who are still trying to figure it out and like their play goes like this and Ja's doing that as well. I mean, that's kind of the game results you're going to get because like, have we had a normal Grizzlies game where they've played well for all 4 quarters? I can't think of one. Like there's always been a quarter where we're like, oh, what is going on right now? So like that consistency is what we're hoping for. And I think that's what Jenkins and coaching staff is going to try to find within this next 26 games is that consistency with that lineup. If no one's out for some injury, God forbid. That's what I think they're going for. You're muted to me. I don't know if that's anyone else.
Nope, that's me. Sorry.
Okay.
I think it's what we forget to realize as a coaching staff, like, in all honesty, a lot of these guys have not been on the court together throughout the entire season. Like they're just working into the main rotations, but also the big three. Like the big three, the leading scorer on the team, the leading scorer when the big three plays all together is who, Ryan? That's your Grizz Trivia tonight.
When the leading scorer when all 3 play together, is it still Ja?
No, Ja's last.
Oh, last. Is it Bane?
No, it's Jaren.
Okay.
So Jaren's actually the only one above 20. I think both of these guys are at 19 and 19-ish. It's 19 point something. But they're all close to 20, right? So you're getting 60 points out of them on a consistent basis when all 3 play, but Ja is not their leading scorer. And it's because of tonight, like he had 23 points, but the last game, right? He didn't do anything. And so that's kind of where he is. It's still a roller coaster. It's up and down. There's not enough consistency. And so when you put, the inconsistency and then you pair that with a bench that can be really hot and then be really cold, which is inconsistent, then at that point, you're going to get more inconsistency. Like there's no consistent to it except for Bane. And I know Kendarius Dolliver here is like, I still hate Bane. Well, Bane coming into the night, he had scored 20 points in 17 of the last 20 games. Now it's 17 in the last 21 games. And he scored, I think it was 17 or 18 tonight. Like Desmond has been a good player just overall after he got past that spurt where he sucked. I think he finally got over that and he finally got to where he felt like he was good. And so, these guys need to just be more consistent and kind of find their groove.
And play
this
together.
Offense does not help them at all. Yeah.
Play together, please.
Yeah. And they don't play together. And that's the main thing is like there is no time where they're actually like playing together and you feel good about it. It just seems like it is just one thing after another. And then there's just like turnover after turnover. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but there's no consistency and there's no identity to this team. It's just whoever. And Austin said we need a 4th guy. In all honesty, we just need the top 3 to be the 3. And I think you'd be fine. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. I mean, I think the problem, I think, is the evaluation of the rest of the guys, right? Like, if we have 4 guys that are pretty much similar and do the same thing, they're interchangeable and we can do whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that fluctuation back and forth kind of playing the hot hand is counterproductive to me. Mm-hmm. Because it's week to week, it's game to game. It's not consistent. It doesn't build players to expect. Like, like this might kind of bleed into the look ahead with the Cavaliers, but the Cavaliers do the same thing as the Grizzlies. They have like one guy averaging 31 minutes, two guys are averaging 30 minutes. The rest they play like 10 or 11 guys and they average 20 minutes apiece. Like Jared Allen has like a set 26 to 28 minutes. That's helpful for him because he knows when he's going to play, what situation in the game he's likely to play. The coaching staff probably communicated before or halftime, depending on how the game's going. Hey, we are going to go to you to close, or hey, we're going to do this to close, right? Like that expectation is helpful for NBA players.
So fans, the normal fan does not realize that is actually a conversation.
Yes.
Like this is planned out before the game.
Yes, or should be.
Because they're professionals. They know this is a job.
Right.
Anyway,
and if you go back, like Scotty, I think is a good example. Like I don't think he played against the Pacers, and I don't think there was any plan for him to play tonight either. But it was just going so south that they just plugged him in for a spark in the third.
No, he played early in the second.
Did he? Okay, then I missed that part. Then
he was the 10th guy.
Okay, I missed that part then, so my bad. But like that fluctuation, and I might play or I might not play. I think that's what kind of hurt people like David Roddy. Was he going to play this game? Is he going to play next week? Like, what kind of minutes can I expect here? So now we have a situation with Vince and Gigi where it's like, is Vince going to get the 22 minutes a night? Is Gigi going to be a 17 or vice versa? So it's just like we got to figure out who it's going to be. Like the coaching staff has to make a clear directional decision, so the top three know who they're going to be playing with.
I disagree wholeheartedly. Just for the simple fact that one, you want those minutes, like be consistent, and that's what I would say is I think we look at a lot of these minutes in the first half, and I think they're consistent in the first half. If you would look at the GG minutes and the Vince minutes, let's just use them for example, because those are the two guys you brought up.
Sure.
Vince and GG would get those consistent minutes in the first half, and whoever's playing better will get the uptick and maybe get the benefit of the doubt to close, or honestly, they go into the third expecting to play the exact same, but GG hits 2 or 3 threes back to back to back. At that point, you kind of ride on him a couple extra minutes more than you would expect to. But I don't think it's that big of a deal to these guys for that, because in all honesty, like we're talking about, you brought up the fact of like 17 or 23 minutes. There's a 6-minute difference, which is huge for a bench guy, right? Because you're getting to the 20-minute mark. But the fact that like, hey, you're riding one guy more than the other because they're playing better, I think that's actually the right way to go. And so I know you're saying like there needs to be consistency, but there's no consistency by them to say, hey, I can't ride with you if you don't give me consistency as the coach.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the teeter-totter of player-coach relationship, right? Like at some point, you've got to pick a lane, whether it's right or wrong. Because all that you're good. This is, I think, what Taylor and the coaching staff has done to themselves by doing this. And I get what you're saying. Sure, yeah. If someone is hot, you don't want to bring him out for the sake of, well, this is what we always do. Right? Like, I get that. Like, that is a read thing, which we have been critical of Taylor with those read things.
He's not a good
Besides
reader.
the point. The point that I'm trying to make is they've caused this issue for themselves by doing that all the time. Yeah. So us as fans are constantly questioning of, well, why did you do the extra 5 minutes with Vince instead of GG, just to give an example, not something that's actually happened, but I think they've caused this issue for themselves. And so whether it's right or wrong, I think you have to pick a lane and just walk down it. And if it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. But at least you find out what you have.
Okay.
Flip-flopping back and forth between people doesn't ever really resolve who's going to be there.
Okay, so I I agree with you if I was playing a guy or not playing a guy.
Right.
But if I'm playing a guy and playing the other guy, and I'm just riding with the hot hand as the game lends to, I don't think that's a problem. Like, that's happened many a times. In old man basketball, it might be the fact that, hey, like these 2 or 3 guys suck. They're not very good, but we only have 7 guys. So one of them has to play. And
Yeah.
so at that point, you get to the fourth quarter, you're like, all right, John has been better than Ralphie and Greg tonight. So he might suck every other night, but my God, John is playing somewhat where he's not killing us and turning the ball over. So we're going to ride with John in the last 4 minutes of the game. Like, that's what it means to me, is like, I'm just going to look at who's going to hurt us less. And that's who I'm going to hurt. And that's what I'm going to roll with, because some of these guys just, some of these guys just suck. And we're just going to roll with them. Like I said last night on the show that I would not play Gigi in the playoffs right now. If I had an 8-man rotation, Gigi would make the roster, and then he comes out and buries 3 threes back to back. But then he goes away. He does nothing else after that.
Yeah, see, you know that how I feel about the Grizzlies in the playoff this year. They're not going to win.
No.
I mean, they might win a series. They could make the Western Conference Final. Sure, they're not winning a championship. They're just not.
No, absolutely.
So to me, I would play Gigi in the playoff to see what I have, right? Because you do not get better by watching Vince out there. Like, Gigi's not going to improve that way. Exposure therapy is the best thing for young players that you think could be your 4th or 5th guy on a championship roster. Yeah. And so, even if it disappointed us that we lost in the first round in like a 3-6 matchup or a 2-7 matchup, but Gigi played 18 to 22 minutes a game, I'm already looking for the next 2 seasons to be real opportunities to be true contenders. That moment for him is vital in his development, adverse to the coaching staff not trusting him and thinking they can get a little bit more consistency out of someone else, right? So there's going to be difference of opinion on that, and that's fine. But that's the better, the more you play young guys that you think are going to be there long term and can contribute at a very high level, the more they're on the court, the better, even if it hurts you now.
I'm okay with that, but not in the playoffs. F that. Like, F that to the moon and back. Like, I do not, like, I'm okay with Gigi. I like Gigi a lot. He's so young, and I think people forget the Grizzleverse is still yelling for him to start, which is weird to me, just in general. But I just don't understand. Like, he's just not consistent because he's young, but also he's been unhealthy. He's been hurt all season.
He hasn't played 15 games yet.
Right. And so, like, I still see that it's going to take him time. And I know we're 20 whatever games left in the season, but my God, like hopefully he comes around and shows what he can do, which is great. Like, that's what we want. But anyway, we spent 50 minutes breaking down this game and talking through it, which is exciting to me because it allows me to kind of roll through it. But I will say there's 2 different ways to think about the show. And one, the chat is crazy today, as Lauren says. But then Art is like, hey, the chat is fire. I think that just sums up the entire night because, yes, it is fire, but it's also a little crazy.
Imagine if we had lost.
Oh, my God. Last night, I know you were doing Mardi Gras and trying to catch bees at Mardi Gras. I'm not sure exactly what that was, but we're still out on that. Me and Drew have our questions about that. But last night, Astronomo, which I've not seen tonight, Astronomo, we were trying to talk him off the ledge. Like, I'm to the point now, I'm used to this. Like, I see the chat moving and I kind of catch on with it. And I kind of like, I see what's happening. And then like Wayne is like, hey, wait, we won? And like, I'm used to it. And Drew's like, hold on, wait. Astronomo is going to jump off a cliff. I'm like, just let him jump. We're good. We'll talk him off later. Yeah. And so last night was funny, but yes, we did win. Thankfully.
No, I mean, I do have something. I don't know if you're about to end this or not, but I do.
Let's roll this thing. Why not?
Oh Lord, okay. No, I did. I caught a box of moon pies last night. So
Hold on.
yeah,
Dong? Yes. Hold on. You caught. You're supposed to catch beads, and you
dude,
got a
our
box of moon pies.
first experience. No, okay. So last weekend we went over to Mobile, and they had one of their. So basically, I didn't know how it works. Went over to see some family friends. They kind of filled us in. Like they have 3 parades in a row for like the next 3 weeks leading up to Mardi Gras, which is on the 12th or something like that.
Random parades.
Just random parades. Like they just every single night, basically. And I was like, okay, so they're going to throw beads and candy? No. I caught a Frisbee. I caught a box of like I said, moon pies. I caught the popsicle, the little plastic popsicles, the juice pouch.
Yes.
I caught a thawed juice pouch, a popsicle juice pouch. They're just slinging them, mother. Like they're just throwing them. Like
the Ed Rice Parade. I put that community center in.
But like,
oh god!
Apparently, there's some where they throw like whole heads of lettuce. Like they just throw it in the crowd. Like my son caught a car, like a toy car. Like, they're just throwing things, like whatever they can find. My daughter caught a hula hoop. I have the hula hoop right here on the ground.
All right, I almost spit. I had to keep it down.
Oh, dude, it was incredible.
Where do they get this stuff from?
Dude, I don't know, but I always thought Mardi Gras was like a New Orleans thing, but no, it was started in Mobile and kind of New Orleans. I took it, but it's originally out of Mobile.
Okay.
And they go crazy. There's like some special one that's like the big one called like Joe Kent Day, or I can't remember what it was.
It might be Lauren's husband's parade. You should pull up.
I think it's like Joe something. I can't remember, but he's like, the way it was described to me, it's like he's the leader of the parade, and they like Joe Cain. That's what I'm telling you. It's real. This is a real thing. And basically, like, he's the guy. He's a Joe Cain impersonator.
Who is
until
Joe
he
Cain?
Dies. He was like the guy who came up with the Mardi Gras. Or
okay.
Like, I don't know if he can be called the inventor, but like from like 200 years ago or something. And so it's like, how the Georgia Bulldogs have whatever the bulldog is until it dies, and then they have another one? That's what they do with Joe Cain. Joe Cain's been like Joe Cain for 60 years. And then when he dies, they appoint a new one, like a pope. And he's the new Joe Cain until he kicks somebody. But it's incredible. It was an absolute blast. Anyways,
is awesome.
Sorry about that tangent, but
no.
To get back to brass tacks in business here.
I don't even want to talk about the Grizzlies. I want to talk about Joe Cain.
Joe Cain, baller. But anyways.
All right. So
my silver lining for the Grizzlies, like for us fans.
Yeah, let's put a bow on this bad boy.
I like prediction models. I like analytics. I like all that stuff. You have to mix in the context with what's on the court, right?
Right.
Prediction models have the Grizzlies, before last game, and I think I mentioned this to you a couple days ago, you and Nate. Prediction models have the Grizzlies going 16-11 to close the season. And in our mind, 16-11 is bad, right? Like, that's 1 or 2 games away, flip to being 500. We would be at 5-alarm fire in Grizzleverse if we were 500 heading into the playoffs. But this is just kind of the reality of the NBA, right? 16-11 gets you to 52 wins.
Right.
And it's a 60% winning percentage. So I just want people to know that the Grizzlies are going to lose more games the rest of the year. Like they just are.
100%.
And so I understand being frustrated, but that is kind of the reality of NBA basketball.
Yeah.
16-11 doesn't sound like much, but it's a pretty good win percentage to close out a season. So as long as we can hold on and just win the games that we're supposed to, maybe steal a couple, maybe we drop one we shouldn't, like we're fine.
Yeah.
And that's like what I mainly have focused on, which we've mentioned the whole time, is roster consistency. I
Yeah.
just want to see guys healthy. I want to see them play together for long periods of time. And that way I think we can get to a rotation that we can expect come playoff time.
No, I agree, Buzz. I agree completely. And I think that Joe Cain should be the president. Whatever you say. I stopped listening a long time ago. No,
Still thinking about.
yeah, I'm done. I'm done thinking about the Grizzlies. I'm so past that. I want to go back to the Mardi Gras conversation. That was more fun. But yes, I agree with you completely. And I think that the Grizzlies will have a lot of losses, and they're going to be, let's just say they're 5 games over 500 the next 26 or so. Like,
Yeah.
that's realistic. But that's honestly like, that's normal. Like, that is a normal NBA season. It's a normal NBA team. Like, you're not going to win that many. You're going to go 7-3, a lot, but you're also going to go 6-4, and you
Sure.
might go 5-5 over a course of a 10, right? And so if you went 7-3, you're 14-6. Like, that's a really good stretch over the last like good amount of games. And so either way, I think that the Grizzlies are in a good spot.
Yeah.
We don't see this as a regular season record. I don't care about the record. Obviously I've said that many times. I don't care about the record. I care about how they are. Like, I
Yeah.
care about how they look and how they'll be in the playoffs. And so I'm just hoping that they figure out a way to figure out this offense. I think that's what it comes down to is, can you create the pace and the space without having to run this certain offense, but also like use the offense that you have in mind, but also like move it in a way that benefits your best players. I think they're going to figure that out, but I think there's time to figure that out, just overall. But
Yeah.
putting a bow on it, the Grizzlies win 105-104. A phenomenal night. This has been a phenomenal show, but I don't want to forget to look ahead too
Uh-oh.
much. Sunday, and let's spend 2 minutes on it. I don't want to spend
Yeah.
more than 2 minutes on it. We're already at our
No,
hour.
I had just stepped on it originally. Like, the Cavs are
Yeah.
going to go 10 to 12 deep like we are.
Yeah.
And it's just a bad spot for the Grizzlies.
Yes.
Like, traditionally, you get run out of the gym in this spot. But I think the Grizzlies could get up for it. So I'm excited to see it. Because I think the Cavs are us in the East. Like, that's the way the teams are built and patterned. Like, they're a little bit older, right? That's what veterans can give you. That could be the Grizzlies in a few years.
Yeah.
Right? So the templates are pretty similar. So I'm very excited for the matchup.
Okay. And listen, we'll end on that one. On the look ahead a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time on it because it is Sunday. It is on ESPN, and I am craving a moon pie now, Austin. I agree. We're on the same page. But I do have a question because I have to be professional here. Anthony has asked this question, I think, a couple times tonight. But Ja's your best point guard, obviously.
Yeah.
What is the reason as a coach? Because I know you used to coach. I coach 10-year-olds. So I'm not anything special at this point. I'm just trying to get them all to go the right direction. But if you're looking at why you would move your best point guard off the ball, why would you choose to do that every now and then?
I think it depends on situation, right? Like, if we're really just a miss shot, rebound, and go, it's whoever's got it, we're going.
Correct.
You know?
But if it's set up, it's a set offense. Why would you move them off?
Maybe you're trying. They love those little Iverson screens, which is, whoever the ball handler is, bringing a smack down the middle of the floor. Ja starts on the wing, and he basically runs over the top of the two bigs to the other side, right? They pass it to him, and then you got a little side pick and roll action. They run that play a lot.
Yeah.
So that could be some setup for what the set is going to be.
Right.
Sure, I don't love it, right? Because the more the
Bro.
ball is in Josh's hands, the better. But that leads to mileage, a lot of physicality, especially with teams like the Magic. He's getting bumped and hit on every drive that he takes. So maybe it is a bit of a maintenance thing where, hey, we just don't want to put that kind of miles on his body in game 56 or whatever we said it was. That would be the only reason, because logically it doesn't make sense considering who the options are as ball handlers. Bring it up.
Yeah. Well, I think the way you look at this as a coach is if we can get him off ball, and because what we're seeing is it's, hey, give him a breather, right? So because when you're on ball, it's a lot of mental, because you're having to figure out like and place everybody and move everybody. And honestly, you're trying to make sure you get the right screen, and there's a lot that it's taxing, if that makes sense. It's like it's taxing on your body, but also your mental, trying to make. So if you can steal a possession or two or three or whatever throughout the regular season, throughout a regular season game, and you're still in plays, it's not that big of a deal. But it's just like, why do it? Well, what we've seen is they'll go to Desmond Bane and they'll run a pick and roll with him, and they'll run, Desmond Bane around the pick, and then there's another pick to bring Ja back to the ball. What that happens is Bane has the opportunity to be free and take the shot, be free and go and dribble drive, and everybody's watching, hey, where's Ja? Where's Ja? Because that's a real thing, right? Because you don't want to be that guy who loses Ja Morant. But then, like on a double screen, right? So you have that one screen, then you have a second screen, which is a stagger a little bit. You have Ja coming back, which should be free. Then if for some reason that first action doesn't work, then you're bringing back to Ja, who then has a little bit more chaos involved, should allow him to sift through that chaos a little bit easier. That's my opinion as to why they're doing it. Is sometimes you don't really need it, and sometimes he's not used, but he's more of a guy that you can say, hey, he's going to be a factor just because he's on the court. So let's use him. And if we actually have to throw him the ball, he's actually set up to be beneficial for this team. And so there's a lot of different ways to look at this, but that's how I look at it when I see the screens and the way they use him when he's just not just standing in the corner. I think when he stands in the corner, let's just be honest, I think he's just taking a play off. And so I don't want to look at it too much more than that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I just don't read too much into it, right? Until playoff time.
Wait, we're not looking at every single rotation of every single play? My spreadsheet says that he should have just somehow had been a little bit more productive tonight than he should have been.
If he would have tried a little bit harder, maybe we would have won by 6 instead of a fortunate 1.
Well, me and King Meeks are on the same page. That's true. I'm married up. I'm married to a smarter family, smarter wife. She is the teacher. She's the one that makes these kids smart, not me. I make them athletic, baby. We're making them athletic. All right. That's all we got tonight. Great show, Ryan. It was fun. It's a Friday night. Everybody have a good night just overall. We're not going to do the bells and the whistles. There's no Grizz Trivia. I saw Art ask that. He must have missed the opening. There is no Grizz Trivia. 1, I was lazy. 2, my wife was out hanging out with her friends, and I had the girls with me tonight, and we had a good time just watching the game. We got McDonald's, and we had a great time. And so that's what it all comes down to. Just it is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Just being a dad, just hanging out with my little girls. But no, we had a good time. But everybody have a good night, a good weekend. We'll see everybody probably not Sunday. We'll see you around on Twitter. But Nate should be back. I don't even know. When's the next game after Sunday? Tuesday?
Yeah, I think
Tuesday.
So.
Yeah, Tuesday. All right, so Tuesday. I would assume Nate's back. He'll probably send me a text, tell me he's not, and then I'll ask Ryan if he can do the show again. But if for some reason not, we'll try to do a Grizzlyverse Tuesday night if that's cool with everybody. That should be fun. I have a lot of Grizzlyverse up my sleeve. I want to do the Grizzlyverse with you, but I could not do it tonight. I could not get it all together.
I'm not as diplomatic as Nate is.
Yeah, I know, and that's probably what scares me. Everybody's asking, is Nate alive? I honestly have no idea. He has not responded to the group chat in the last day and a half, so he's probably really working.
He could be Joe Cain. We have no idea.
Be Joe Cain. I believe in Joe Cain. And I believe in you, Ryan. I believe in Mardi Gras and everybody, and I love all the parades, and I love all of the chat. All right, that's all. We'll see you all next time. Make sure you go, and if you see something crazy, hashtag Grizzlyverse. I promise you, I get notifications anytime a hashtag Grizzlyverse is used. I get a notification, and so please, if you see something, comment hashtag Grizzlyverse, and so we'll make sure we put that in there. But tonight, Nate is Joe Cain. We'll see you all next time. Be nice. Tell your friends.